welcome to another Chainist Meetup. My name is Nhan, and today we have the introduction in English because we have David Truong from the Aave protocol with us, and he is not fluent in German. So that's why we have everything in English today. So why is David today here? So we have a DeFi series of meetup, virtual meetup and local meetups, and we would like to learn more about the Aave protocol and the flash loans. Back in 2018, I was the ambassador for ETHLend, and since that, in the last 2 years, things have changed and evolved with the ETHLend team, the big rebranding to the name Aave, and among this brand, several products has been developed, and they have moved to London as well, besides being in Switzerland and in ETHLend. So welcome, David, and happy to learn more about the news and updates of your protocol.
Right, yeah, so I'm David Truong, working for Aave. I'm a developer and builder. You can find me on Telegram or Twitter through DBT. So the way I normally do these sort of introduction workshops / seminars is I like to keep them interactive. So feel free to, if you want, you can interrupt by unmuting yourself, or you can just type on the Zoom group chat, and I'll keep an eye on that on my second screen. And if you want me to repeat things or dive a bit deeper, let me know as well. Otherwise, I'll just go through my slides and then, yeah, we'll see how we go. And of course, we'll take questions at the end as well. All right, so let's talk about Aave and DeFi. Right, so like we was just mentioned, we used to be called ETHLend, right? So ETHLend started in 2017, and it was more based on traditional lending, so peer-to-peer lending. So what that means is you would need to, let's say on the left-hand side, you have depositors, and depositors want to deposit a certain amount of money, and they want to get a certain amount of interest back because they're sort of volunteering their funds out into this marketplace. And then, of course, on the other side, you have borrowers that want to borrow a certain asset for a certain interest rate, right? And the problem with traditional lending is that when it's peer-to-peer, you need to manually match up these depositors and borrowers, right? So you need someone that has the exact asset that you want for an interest rate that you're willing to pay. And in economics, that's called the problem of I forgot what it's called actually, but something about coincidence of wants. That's what it's called. So that's the problem with peer-to-peer lending, which was with ETHLend. So the start of this year, in January, we released. We've been working on it for a while, but we released what's called Aave. So Aave is a money market lending protocol, and just to explain that a bit better, instead of matching up peer-to-peer loans individually, what we do instead is on one side, just say on the left-hand side, we have depositors, and depositors can deposit their money into the protocol, and they earn a certain amount of interest straight away, depending on certain parameters in the protocol. So that could be based on the utilization rate, how much that asset is needed or wanted, how much volume of that asset is actually in the protocol. So that's on the left-hand side. Depositors can deposit whenever they want, and they can withdraw their deposit whenever they want as well. On the right-hand side, we have borrowers, right? So now borrowers, they can always get an instant loan whenever they need to, and they can choose between a stable and variable interest rate, and they just interact with the protocol. So the innovation here, when compared to peer-to-peer lending, is that it solves the coincidence of wants problem, in that you no longer have to match up people manually. It's like, here's the funds that are available, here's the interest rates and all the parameters, and as more borrowers want more assets, then the interest rates change, and it becomes more or less profitable depending on how the protocol is being used. And besides the Aave protocol, what we released a few weeks ago actually is what we call the multi-markets. So multi-markets mean that not only is there the Aave protocol, which is our main protocol with all the listed assets, we also have a secondary or another market called the Uniswap market. And what that allows is essentially we can isolate different assets that may have different risk parameters, right? So then the Aave market in and of itself, it's sort of isolated and safe, and the borrowing and lending activity can happen as it normally happens, and then we can experiment quite rapidly with other types of markets. And the reason why it's called Uniswap market is because it allows Uniswap liquidity providers, basically people who have put funds on Uniswap, the decentralized exchange, in return for the exchange fees. Because when they deposit into Uniswap, they get these LP tokens, which is a tokenized proof that they own a part of that pool. They can use that as collateral in the Uniswap market, and then they can borrow funds based on that collateral. So that's quite a different asset type than just say ERC20 tokens in general cryptocurrencies or in Ethereum. So Uniswap market is the second market that we've opened up in this multi-market strategy. We have a few more coming in the pipelines. The next one will be Set Protocol. So I'm not sure on the, I guess it depends how deep everyone is in the DeFi space. So if I'm going a bit too fast with Uniswap and Set and things like that, let me know and I can slow down and explain a bit more. But I'll assume that you generally know what these things are. They're different protocols. And essentially with the multi-market strategy, we're able to collateralize nearly anything that can be tokenized, that has some value. And that's pretty special. It just means it opens up sort of the money market or the lending and borrowing space to like a huge degree, where anyone can use whatever assets they have to whether it's leverage or whether to borrow money that they need straight away at really competitive interest rates as well. And also it opens up for people to earn money, right? So we have much more efficient markets in that sense. And then so here, everything that I've explained so far is encapsulated in the little ghost icon, the Aave protocol. And then so on one side, left-hand side, you have depositors, right-hand side, you have borrowers. And then the Aave protocol is in the middle. And then there's a wider ecosystem around Aave as well. So that includes, these are the three main ones. So we have price feeds. So we use Chainlink and we have our own price oracles as well. And that ensures that the prices that Aave protocol depends on is accurate. And that's important because, we want to make sure that, you can borrow this amount and, you're not under collateralized. We need to make sure that, someone is able to liquidate you or not. The second one in this diagram is the collateral liquidators. So these are independent third parties that run their own bots or their own systems, and they will essentially watch the Aave protocol and find which loans are, say, becoming at risk, right? So then they're incentivized to liquidate these loans, and they get a little bonus from doing that. And then that sort of ensures the health of the system as well, so it doesn't collapse. And then the third major part of the Aave protocol or the ecosystem is we have a lot of integrations with different applications, projects, and things like that, whether they've integrated directly with the Aave protocol, or they're building on top of it, or it becomes a part of their own company or product. I'll go through a few examples later on, but that's sort of the main sort of 10,000 foot overview of the Aave protocol and ecosystem. Right. So now I'll go over a bit of the sort of state of the union and where Aave is at the moment. So we just started or launched on mainnet in January this year. We really like memes as well. So if you watch on Twitter, we post a lot of memes all the time. But we've grown quite rapidly in just a few months. So the protocol market size at the moment is actually close to $150 million. So we just broke through the 100 million barrier, I think it was last week or something like that. And you can see here in this graph, we started in January with essentially no assets. And then now it's grown to about 130 million total value locked. Right, so there's been sort of a massive sort of crazy growth in the protocol market size, which has been quite exciting. And for us, that sort of shows that our protocol is being trusted. There's a lot of financial activity happening. People are borrowing and they're depositing, and people are earning money on assets that would just sit in their hardware wallet doing nothing. Right, so I think that's quite special and quite empowering. Secondly, we have our ETHLend token, which is our governance token. So we'll have more details on governance a bit later, working on some pretty cool stuff around using the Lend token. But you can see here the price of the Lend token as well. That's also captured some of the value. So you can see this is March of this year. So yeah, in the last, let's say, month or 2 months, it's sort of rapidly risen. And we see that as a reflection of how the market sees our progress and what we've been doing, and the trust that's building into the Aave protocol, which is really cool to see. We have more than 100 integrations. If you go to our ecosystems page, we list these integrations, but we have a ton more that aren't listed on that page yet. But these are sort of the bigger integrations that we currently have. And of course, this is our team. We're 17 people at the moment. A very international team. We have headquarters in London. I think we have another office in Switzerland. I'm based in Amsterdam, and we have other people based in other areas of the world as well. And of course, if you're interested, feel free to join us on Twitter. But also, we're always looking for developers and you know, other people that want to join in the space as well. So feel free to go on our website. I think we have some listed jobs there as well. So that was the sort of overview of Aave protocol and where Aave is now. And then now I'll go more into the protocol features. So yeah, feel free to, you know, post your questions or raise your hand and things like that if you want me to dive more deeply into certain things. But I'll go through each of these major protocol features in the next few slides. All right, so before I go into that, actually, here's some of the assets that are listed. So 17 assets that we've listed on the main Aave market. Then also, of course, we have the multi-markets. So the 17 assets plus, you know, we have certain Uniswap LP tokens that are available as well. Okay, so the first major feature is earning, right? And earning is essentially, if I was to explain it to a 5-year-old, I'd say, let others borrow your money when you're not using it. It's pretty self-explanatory. If I was explaining it to a 15-year-old, I'd say that you deposit your money and you earn immediate interest on that amount, and you can withdraw it at any time. And if I explain it to a crypto or DeFi person, I'd say that we tokenize your deposit, and we call that an A token. So it's an ERC20 token. And the account holding the A token accrues the interest based on certain parameters, and it accrues the interest per second, right? So as soon as you deposit into Aave protocol, you receive an A token, which is one-to-one pegged with the underlying asset. And you immediately see the balance slowly ticking up. So that's pretty cool to see as well. And this is some code. I probably won't go too deeply into it unless someone wants me to. But the important part here is, you know, it's quite easy to do this from a Solidity contract. Down here, you see the deposit line of code at the bottom. So you just call our lending pool, you deposit, and you say how much you deposit, then you'll receive the A tokens in return. The second feature of earning is that not only can you accumulate interest in sort of your account, you can also redirect that interest to any other Ethereum address. So this is really cool for, I'll go through some actual real world examples later on, but for example, let's say you want to donate your interest to charity, right? So you can deposit funds that are not doing anything and just have an automatic stream of interest that's being paid out to a charity. Or maybe you want to have pocket money for your children or something, right? So, you know, maybe that's a new type of wheel or a new type of inheritance type structure. I don't know. But I'm sure someone could build that, which would be pretty cool. The next major feature, of course, is borrowing. So if I was explaining borrowing to a 5-year-old, I'd say that you can borrow money when you need it. For a 15-year-old, I'd say that you can borrow money depending on how much you have deposited in the system, right? And you can pay back this money at any time. So it's not like a fixed term borrow. You pay it whenever you want to pay back. And if I was explaining to a DeFi/crypto person, I'd say that we use your A tokens. So essentially, you've collateralized a position with A tokens, and we use those A tokens to borrow supported assets at either a stable or variable interest rate. So I'll go through that now, actually. So once you have A tokens, you can lock those A tokens to become collateral, and then you can borrow money. So you can see at the bottom here, the last line of code, it's simply just calling lending pool, and you say borrow, you know, this asset, this amount, and you say whether you want a variable or stable rate. So what is the variable rate and what is the stable rate? One of the special features of our protocol is that some people, they don't mind the variability, right? And of course, we all know that crypto, the prices go up and down. And as the prices go up and down, that means that the parameters in the protocol also go up and down. So sometimes the interest rate might be really high, sometimes it might be really low. And some people don't mind that volatility. Whereas other people, they want to maybe plan their finances a bit more and they prefer a stable rate. So we also have a special feature where you can lock in a stable rate with the borrow that you made, so that you can plan accordingly. And it really depends on what you want to do. And of course, you can easily swap between the stable and variable rate at any time, just by calling a simple method on our smart contract. Okay, and then now we're going to flash loans, which is a very interesting topic. And a lot of people do get confused when they first hear about this, so don't feel bad if you don't understand it straight away, but yeah, feel free to ask your questions as well. All right, so if I was explaining to a 5-year-old, I'd say that it's strangely, it's a free money that you have to pay back nearly immediately, right? So for a 5-year-old, they don't really, there's no real use case for them, I guess. For a 15-year-old, I'd say that anyone can borrow as much as they want, as long as they pay it back within a certain time frame. And then because I get this question a lot from like bankers or traditional finance people, in sort of banker terms, it's an unsecured fixed term loan for about 15 seconds. That's time that a block is processed in Ethereum, with very low fixed interest rate, 0.09% of the amount that you flash loaned. And that the bank, let's say the smart contract or Ethereum is the bank, it can always collect that money at expiry. So there's essentially no risk for the bank or the lending pool contract. And then if we talk to more crypto or DeFi people, what it actually is it's an uncollateralized loan supplied by our lending pool. So any pool, any amount of money or assets that isn't currently being utilized, it's sort of up for grabs. And at any time, we might have 50 million, $100 million just sitting there, right? So you can take $100 million loan, uncollateralized loan if you want, where the amount that you borrow plus a small fee, the 0.09%, has to be repaid by the end of the transaction. So the caller, which is normally a smart contract, it can execute any action that it wants, as long as you can code it. So you can code it to do whatever you want. And if the loan's not repaid, then everything just reverts back to before the flash loan occurred. So it's like, if you don't pay back the flash loan, it's like the flash loan was never given, and it's like nothing ever happened. Right. So in a sort of diagrammatic way, as well as an example, if we start from the top left, and then say a borrower, let's say the borrower is a smart contract. So smart contract essentially calls the flash loan function on the Aave protocol. Then the Aave protocol will do some sanity checks and it will say, okay, here's the amount that you wanted in DAI. It will send that back to the borrower or the smart contract. And then the smart contract will do whatever it needs to do with the DAI. In this case, this is specifically for a CDP. So in Maker, like MakerDAO, you can create a CDP, collateralized debt position. They're called vaults now. But essentially, you put some money aside and you can, essentially it's a loan position, right? And then you get some DAI out of it. But sometimes you want to close down your position in Maker, right? So here, someone's borrowing that DAI, flash loaning that DAI from the Aave protocol. They're closing down or liquidating their own CDP. And of course, when they close down their CDP, they get the Ethereum that's underlying it. They take that Ethereum, they sell it on a decentralized exchange, right, back for DAI. And then from that DAI that they get from that exchange, they pay back the flash loan because, of course, the protocol needs to be paid back. And then if there's any profit, that goes to whether it's the borrower or gets sent to someone else. It's exactly whatever they want to do, right? And then you can see here on this diagram as well, I drew a purple line. So what that purple line indicates is that anything that happens below the purple line is completely arbitrary. So that's like whatever you program it to do, it will do, right? But if you see the last step where the flash loan debt is repaid, if the flash loan debt is not repaid, everything under that purple line just gets reverted. It's like it never happened, right? Then we just return back above the purple line, and it's like nothing ever happened. You paid the gas fee, and that's it.
So
okay,
let me ask a question. So if
sure.
you say it will be reverted back to the original state, So within the 15 seconds, if this what you display in the chart, so it connects to the DEX, yeah, exchange the DAI with ETH, and within the 15 minutes, he receives seconds. Sorry,
yep.
He receives the ETH instead of the DAI which he borrowed.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be also reverted, even the DEX is not part of the Aave protocol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So the way the Ethereum EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, the way the blockchain works is it works with state trees, or like there's certain states. So every let's say thing that happens on Ethereum, there's like let's call it a ladder of state changes that are made. And then so if there's a revert at any time, then that entire state tree sort of just goes back.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you can interact with anything outside of Aave.
Cool.
That's just inherent in the blockchain.
Cool. Got it. Thanks.
Cool. All right. So from a code sense, this is of course a flash loan smart contract that let's say the borrower. So this is the borrower. They have a flash loan function here, and essentially they call the lending pool. They say, hey, flash loan to me this certain asset, say DAI, $1 million, and they can pass through some data if they want to. Then our contract will do some sanity checks, like I said, and then if everything checks out, it will send that million DAI back to this contract, and it'll call execute operation. So from a programmer's perspective, this is where you can do whatever you want to do, as long as at the end, we can see. Wait a second, but towards at the end of the function call, it transfers funds back to the lending pool. So that's paying back the debt. Yeah, so that's, you can do whatever you want there. I'll go through some use cases besides the Maker Vault as well. But here, if you look on Etherscan, this is an actual transaction using collateral swap, which is actually one of my side projects that allows you to swap your Maker Vault, the underlying collateral from one collateral to another collateral. And the reason why you'd want to do this, do a collateral swap, and other people also work on collateral swaps, is that, let's say for MakerDAO, you would previously you could only really collateralize a position with ETH, right? But the ETH price is so volatile sometimes, and if the ETH price dumps and goes really low, that means your position is in danger of being liquidated, right? An entire position, so you get liquidated, which is really bad. So if you don't want to be exposed to the changing volatility of the Ethereum price, you can also just switch your vault to have USD coin underlying it. And because USD coin is always $1, there's no price volatility for the underlying collateral, right? So that would be a reason why you'd want to do that. Let's say if suddenly the price starts to drop and you're a bit scared of your position, then quickly swap it to USDC, right? So here you can see, I'll go through each line or some of the lines. So the Aave protocol, essentially the contract has called the Aave lending pool. It says, hey, give me 1,700 worth of DAI. Then that 1,700 worth of DAI gets sent to the collateral swap contract, let's say the borrower. Then this borrower pays back the vault, the Maker Vault. So it sends that vault. And because it pays back the vault, the Maker contract, here you can see Maker, the MCP join contract, releases the underlying collateral, which at that time was 34 ETH, worth around $8,000. And then what we do is we swap that 34 ETH to, we're using Uniswap here. So we swap the ETH for USDC. Then we receive about 7,000 USDC worth. And then using that USDC, we then open up a new vault that's backed by this amount. We draw out the DAI that we owe, which is a bit more because of the 0.09% fee. We use that 1,772. We send it back to the, so with it, we get 1,772 DAI from our vault, and then we pay back the debt. So it's only, say, like around $1, one DAI, that extra that we need to pay. We send that directly to the Aave lending pool. That means we've paid back the debt. Everything checks out. Collateral swap, the smart contract has its own little fee, and then that's it, right? right? So then now you've swapped your vault to this more safer USDC vault. And then also, because we have some integrations for Etherscan as well, recently they integrated this thing at the bottom, which is really cool. It just makes it super clear. It just tells you exactly, there's a flash loan of this amount from Aave. So anyone can sort of look at these transactions on Etherscan or on the blockchain. It's really easy to see. And then another common use case of flash loans is what we call DEX arbitrage.
David, one question.
Yep.
Can you
Sure.
switch back to the previous slide? Yep. So last time we had an introduction about DeFi. We went through several protocols, and so the question from some of the community always are: so why are we doing this? So why we are moving assets back and forth from one vault to the other? And when we look at the history of the transactions, what you're showing here. Is at the end, when I do the math right, you get a little bit more out of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. So it depends. So this is because, remember, this vault, it's their debt was only around less than 2,000, but they had more than $8,000 backing it. So they had some space to play as well. So they could withdraw more money, much more if they wanted. But for this specific transaction, which is specifically only a collateral swap, you only need to draw out the amount to pay back the debt.
Okay. Yeah. So, but usually it's okay for the to have a stable value of your asset. You do the swap. I got it. And some use cases what we have observed in the crypto space, that people do a lot of more complex transactions to get at the end higher return.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll go. The next example is around that the arbitrage. But so it's the collateral swaps, and these are essentially think of it like refinancing in the modern world. So like you refinance a loan. So this is essentially refinancing that loan to something that's more stable, better interest rate, that sort of stuff. But like you were saying, when you have maybe a more profit-driven motive, and the most obvious profit-driven motive is around arbitrage, right? So here you can see this is from the arbitrage DAO guys or State Capital, and they do a lot of this sort of stuff. So they borrowed. It's a very small one. They have much larger arbitrages that they did as well, but this is only, let's say, 33 DAI or 33.15 DAI. They sent it to their contract, and then they converted that 33.15 DAI to 0.19 ETH through some contract, probably a DEX, some DEX somewhere. And then you can see here the 1.1935 is sent off again and converted to 33.48 DAI. So you see here the original was 33.15, and then now they have 33.48, and then now they pay back 33.26. So that's the original borrowing amount plus the small fee, and then so they made some profit of, let's say, less than 20 cents or so, right? So it doesn't seem like much in this case, but when you start doing thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, it turns out to be quite lucrative if you can get these sort of transactions through. The other important thing is that they didn't really need any DAI. So that's a powerful thing with these profit sort of driven flash loans, is that you don't need to have like your hardware wallet or some cold storage with just like a bunch of money, because there's opportunity costs just leaving it there. So now you can really only just, when you find an arbitrage opportunity, just borrow that specific asset for 15 seconds for that one block transaction. Yeah, and you can see here, this is the exact amount that they flash loaned. Any questions on that one? All right, cool. So next, so that was sort of flash loans. Then I'll start to talk about what we call, like, in the Ethereum space, money Legos. So sort of a meme going around that we see as sort of Lego pieces, and all these protocols and things can stack on top of each other, and you can create cool new things. And that's something we really encourage in the space, and as a sort of Aave as a protocol, we really love when people do that. So I'll run through some examples of products and companies and projects that have done that. So one of our favorites is called DeFi Saver. Underneath DeFi Saver, underneath the contracts, they utilize flash loans for cross-protocol yield. So what that means is you can see here on their dashboard, this is a bit of an old screenshot, so it might look different now, but they have compound, DYDX, DSR, which is the MakerDAO day savings rate, then you have Aave. And you can see here they list out the APY, which is the interest rate that you can get. So let's say they're currently here in compound at 0.7%, but hey, DYDX has a higher percentage interest rate, right? So it's better for them to move to DYDX. And then also here, at that time, Aave had a higher interest rate, right? So here they can go in one sort of click transaction, they can go from compound to Aave, then move their position to get a better interest rate, right? And underlying it is sort of the flash loans, but from a user's perspective, they don't really care that it uses flash loans. They just care that, hey, I can just click one button and then I get the best interest rate. And I think that's really powerful and a really good use case because it abstracts away a lot of the details that people don't need to know, but also it provides, I guess, better sort of financial products for the general consumer, right? So they can always get the best interest rate depending on what they want to do with it. So I think that's quite powerful. Of course, collateral swap, which I mentioned as well. That's my side project. At the moment, just does MakerDAO vaults. We have 88mph.app. They're really interesting because what they do is they give you upfront interest with Aave. So traditionally with Aave, let's say you have a 3 or 4% interest rate, but that's an annualized interest rate. For some people, they don't want to wait a year to get that 3 or 4%. They want it like right now, right? So 88mph, they created a cool product where you can get that interest rate upfront, of course, at a lower amount, because essentially you're swapping your low time preference with someone else that has a higher time preference, right? So someone else is going to take that 3-4% interest rate, and you will maybe take a 2% interest rate or something. I don't know the exact numbers they use, but that's the general idea behind what they're doing, and that's just quite magical. And there's nothing like that in the traditional financial world. And I think this sort of is really cool because it gives more choices to DeFi or to financial consumers, where if suddenly your time preference changes because you need like money now, right? Then you can do that, right? And someone else is like, okay, well, I'm good to wait a year, and then you can sort of swap those time preferences, which is really a powerful thing. When I was talking about flash loans before, that was all about smart contracts, and it needed developers to do it. Now we're starting to see projects come up where they're enabling flash loans to become more accessible to the general public. So an example is Fura Combo app. So they're a flash loan graphical user interface, and it's really easy. You just go there and you sort of point and click, and you connect essentially these Lego blocks, and you say, hey, flash loan this amount, swap it on Uniswap, then do like X, Y, and Z, and you can sort of connect all these different pieces together as a non-coder, right? So it's just sort of clicking and dragging, which is super cool and super powerful. They do a lot more than flash loans. They integrate with many other protocols, and that's what we really love to see. Another flash loan GUI is a new one called Flashmint. So similar to Fura Combo, they have a little bit of a different interface, and you can see here, the flash loan Uniswaps, they sell something Uniswap, buy it on Kyber, and then it finishes, right? But you can add other pieces to it. Another interesting one is Yield Hero. So in the Ethereum space, there's a lot of memes around yield hacking or yield farming. So Yield Hero is a tool for currently, I think, for Aave only, but they'll probably expand later on. But there's all these different ways where you can yield hack, and what that means is sort of maximize or optimize your yield, right? So for example, let's say you've deposited DAI in Aave, and so now you have a DAI, but for whatever reason, AUSDC has a high interest rate. So it makes sense, instead of holding a DAI, you should just swap over to AUSDC, right? And there's no real easy way to do that at the moment. So what Yield Hero did is essentially created an easy way to do that. So you can just swap your a DAI directly with AUSDC. And on the back end, they use balancer pools and all that sort of stuff. They have some other things around interest redirection, where you can send your interest to other people. There's a leaderboard. And yeah, Dan Dakota, who made this, he's creating many other tools and really cool projects, which I'm sure we'll hear about a lot later as well. Another one that came out of a recent hackathon is called Magic Bet. So this is no loss betting or prediction market. So normally when you make a bet, you put some money up front and I say, hey, you know, like let's say Trump or Biden's going to win the next election and the loser loses their money, right? In this case, what they do is people will make the bets, the money goes into a pool. If you lose, you just get your money back. If you win, you get all that interest that's been accumulated, or you get a share of that interest that's accumulated, right? So that's really innovative and really cool. And we really love seeing these no loss solutions. And it's pretty crazy because there's no real, that business model wouldn't work in the traditional financial world, but it works really well in the DeFi space. And of course, there's many other sort of money Lego projects out there. Dej does collateral swap as well, but using for compound. Blazer is another fixed rate sort of interest in lending and borrowing. JellySwap, they do cross-chain atomic swaps, and they've integrated Aave. Then you have Jarvis. Jarvis is really cool because they're a consumer wallet for general consumers that want to get into the Ethereum or the DeFi space, but they abstract away all the details, including gas costs and choosing transaction fees. And one of the ways that they ensure they don't go bankrupt with paying gas costs is that part of the funds, or I'm not sure if they implemented this yet or they will, but part of they use some of the funds and they put it in Aave. Then the interest that is gained with those funds, they use it to pay the gas costs of the users. So that's really fascinating as well, because sort of these brand new business models, how to be more efficient, how to be more sustainable in the crypto space. Then of course, the last one is HODL Factory. So this is the same guy that is doing, or the same team that is doing the lossless betting. And they have all these different lossless things, but the one that's really interesting is they call it lossless Ponzi. And you should check it out. It's really cool. They're on testnet at the moment, but I'm excited to see it on mainnet. It's like a funny game, but it's strangely it works due to all the various things we've talked about already. All right, and here's some resources. I'll share this presentation afterwards if people want to find some more details. If you're a developer, our docs are pretty good, so feel free to have a look at the developer docs as well. Yeah, and so that's all the sort of slides, presentation content that I had. Yeah, really happy to answer any questions or talk about ideas, or I don't know, whatever else you had planned for this.
Yeah.
I have one question.
Can you say your name before you ask the question?
Oh, yeah, of course. My name is Kai, and I've one question because you said in the beginning, Aave supports, I think, 17 or 18 different
17,
tokens.
Yep.
Tokens. Who's in charge of implementing a new token, or who's in charge of removing a token which is supported?
Yeah. So we have a risk and compliance team. So you can actually go to, I think it's docs. If you go here, like docs.aave.com/risk. So that's what our risk team put together. It's a document. It talks about all the, like, how they add and remove, or how they lower parameters of certain types. But I guess the short answer to that is it really depends on a number of factors. Whether it's the liquidity of that token, how it's widely used, the risk factors, all those sort of things.
Okay, thank you. And if I can ask another question.
Yeah.
The logic behind calculating the interest rate, or the fixed interest rate, or the stable interest rate, can the logic be changed anyway, or is it, you program the code which calculates it? Can it be changed in any way, or is it fixed for its whole lifetime?
So the so that's a more general, like, smart contract question.
Okay.
But yeah, so the code, let's say, generally smart contracts, once they're published on the blockchain, they're there forever, right? But there are certain patterns where you can, like, upgrade like basically replace it with or put a new contract and point everything else to that new contract. With the interest rates for Aave specifically, think of them more as like algorithmic interest rates. So it depends on a number of parameters, like utilization rate, how much of it is being borrowed, how much of it is being deposited, all those sort of factors.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there
another question?
Yeah, Christian.
It's more general question about DeFi, and it's about what are your feelings about the DeFi world? Is it when you, in terms of the future, is it more for a few people that will use it, or do you believe that there will be some kind of mainstream someday?
Yes, good question. I think a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing or we're seeing from our perspective, we're involved in a lot of hackathons, and a lot of like we hear from a lot of builders in the space. There's a lot of stuff being built. So there's two sides of it. So on one side, there's a lot of stuff being built for consumers. So like I mentioned before, there's Jarvis and things that abstract away a lot of the details. We have Argent Wallet as well. They have like a beautiful user interface, and like it's a great app. That's a Ethereum wallet. So that's one side. So that brings consumers in. And on the other side, you have this super advanced sort of financialization of the space. I mean, it's DeFi, but you know, we've heard like of a number of options protocols that are starting to pop up. You know, these derivative platforms. There's like really advanced. I mean, if you're deep in the space, you've most likely heard about Compound and what they're doing with their governance token, and you know all the stuff that's happening around that. So there's like really advanced stuff happening at the same time. So I think in the future that will generally be what happens is that there'll be the huge opportunity of bringing consumers in a space, because you know who would want to keep their money in like a bank that charges negative interest rates, or you know, when you can you know put it into some crypto asset that has 5-6% interest rate. And then maybe something related, timely news. Actually, I was thinking about this. I looked at the news recently about that the German company, the Wirecard.
Wirecard.
Yeah, that one, right? So that sort of stuff would never happen on the blockchain, right? Because like you can't just have a missing $2 billion, right? So on the blockchain, like you would be able to track that down. And I think now, when I read last, it was like the board or whoever, they're like, okay, well, we're not going to find that money. Like it's just this.
It didn't exist before.
Yeah,
so
it didn't exist. Like, yeah, so that sort of stuff is like crazy. Like, yeah, so I think like that stuff happening. The Fed in the US like printing money like trillions and trillions of dollars, like more than we've ever seen. The ECB also printing like trillions of euros or billions of euros. Like that sort of stuff, I think pushes people more into the DeFi space. So I think people want more transparency, more security, more guarantees, things like that.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Other question? Otherwise, I have 3. Cool. So I'm not a financial expert, but what I observe is from a traditional lending market. So do you think that in DeFi that there will be a kind of secondary market that loans are sold? Do you think this would be a use case in the DeFi world?
Yeah, I mean, so I know that people have worked on projects where, let's say, this was maybe a few months ago. You know how you have MakerDAO vaults, and the people have been able to tokenize the MakerDAO vaults. So that's essentially tokenizing that loan position.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's because it's tokenized in the ERC20, then you can send it, receive it, do whatever you want with it. Yeah, so there'll definitely be things like that. And that's like you can do that right now, most likely. The hard part is like that we found as well, is around reliable price oracles.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have these loan positions, how do you determine the price of that? How do you know when it's underwater or not? But I think people can really definitely build that sort of stuff straight away. Yeah.
Will it? Thank you so much, David. Will it end to some kind to the same consequences that those instruments of tokenize your loans, like it had in the financial crisis. Don't misunderstand. I do not know if I really understood fully what's the potential of Aave. Yes, but I just think, as far as I understood now, of course, these kind of instruments are also dangerous to some kind if you bring money in which you really need. If it's not, no, I stop here. Just let me know.
I think, Karen, I think let me try to read your mind.
Yes.
So I think we can refer back to the explanation for 5 years old that you say you get free money, and so we grab off the pool of the lending pool. So how you make sure that there is enough money to allow others to play with it. So let's say we have the players who play with the protocol, right? Build wallets, build applications. And does this protocol, Aave protocol, have security mechanisms that you don't, at the end, let people play with money which doesn't exist, even you have
other needs? Because at the beginning we began with loans you really need. Others are borrowers using it for, you know, very serious companies and so on. So yes, but I agree. Nhan, thank you very much for translation. For 5 years old.
Okay.
No. Yep. Please go on. Perhaps it's coming with governance or something you're explaining there.
Yes, I mean, it's a good question. It's something that I think about quite often as well. But I think that there's a few aspects to that question. So on one side, it's like, you know, the underlying security. How do you guarantee security? On the other side, it's the financialization, you know, the creating derivatives out of derivatives, and you know, that's how 2008 happens. So on one side, on the security aspect, so as Aave as a smart contracts company, as a protocol, you know, we follow best practices. We've had 3 different audits from 3 different auditing companies, which is sort of far beyond the standard in the industry. And you know, we have a $250,000 bounty program, so encourage hackers, or let's say white hat hackers, to come and test out and try and find holes in the protocol. And also, of course, we have the biggest sort of bounty, which is all the funds that are in the protocol, $150 million. So we haven't, so it hasn't been compromised yet. But of course, like, there's always, maybe there's never like a zero probability risk. But I'd say from a smart contract technological perspective, we've done as best as sort of we could, as best as anyone really could. And we've learned a lot from the mistakes that other people have done as well. Right. So I'd say in that case, we're pretty good there. On the other side, with the sort of derivatives and financialization of the space, it's true that, yeah, maybe that there could be dangers in people, you know, building derivatives on top of derivatives and things like that if they don't properly understand what they're doing. We see that in the space at the moment, not necessarily with Aave protocol, but with other protocols, that people would take really leveraged positions because, you know, it's essentially free money, and then eventually the price drops by, I don't know, 5% in a day, and then they get liquidated, and then they're like, where's our money? So it's a really quick lesson for those people. And I think that there's that sort of danger. That's like an educational danger. But the core difference between this and, let's say, 2008 or traditional finance is that everything is transparent on the blockchain, right? So the problem with 2008 was that you had, you know, these CDOs and all these really advanced financial instruments where, you know, these loans or these debts, let's say mortgages, they were actually not very good quality mortgages, but they were being repackaged and repackaged and repackaged until they were seen as like AAA instruments, right? And that's that's the problem, because people that bought those AAA instruments, there was no way for them to discover actually on the end, it was like really toxic mortgages. Whereas with the blockchain, because it's the blockchain and there's this clear auditing trail, anyone can sort of create an app or look for themselves and see exactly what's underlying certain things. So with these sort of loan products, I don't think we'll see a repeat of 2008 in the crypto world, just because anyone can really easily tell whether this loan is good. Like you can see the collateralization ratio, right, of any loan, whereas you can't really do that in the real world.
Let me see if I understood rightly.
Mm-hmm.
David, thank you so much. You're right. At the moment, or the history was because of intransparent businesses. Yes, we couldn't have any sight. We couldn't have any insight in who is doing what with what money behind the counter. So I totally agree. It's of course you do similar things. You are securing and tokenizing loans now, and then of course it getting a new product, a new financial product. But you're true. It's always transparent on the blockchain, and it is like ever. You should know what you do, wherever you are, in real life or on blockchain. It's a good one. So yes, I have to be not so critical, because of you can do a lot of bad stuff with it, and you can do a lot of good stuff with it. And it would be interesting if you're going to plan to have there some governance, for example, deciding how far you could go with this constructing derivatives, if you know what I mean.
Derivatives, yeah. I mean, but the thing is, like with all things like innovation and open transparency, there's sort of that it's hard to balance that, right? So the more you can control, then the more dangerous it potentially becomes, because if I can stop you from doing something, then maybe I can also take your funds, right? So you want to sort of have enough sort of freedom and lack of control to also encourage innovation as well. So it's a tough balance. The thing with like open source contracts and with code, like just with technical code, is that sort of anyone can, like if we stop doing something, someone else can also do it. Other ones
is taking over. Yes, I agree. It's don't misunderstand. It's so cool, David. Thank you so much for having a bit of a glue while you're doing that.
Okay, it's good questions. Yeah.
We have another hand raising here, Risto.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question concerning borrowing money on Aave. One of the advantages of DeFi is anonymity, right? So what stops me from abusing the system and like borrowing a lot of money and not returning it? Do you have a legal system where somebody is prosecuted, or what happens in that case?
Yes.
I'm not talking about the flash borrowing where it's automatically returned. I'm talking about like real borrowing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yes. So the one of the core aspects, maybe I skipped over this from the beginning, but the core aspects of Aave as a protocol is that it's an over collateralized loan system, right? So to be able to borrow money, you need to put up some collateral, right? So there's really no way you can, like if you don't pay back the loan and it reaches a certain part of where the health of that loan or the health of your account is not very healthy because the price dumps, and then like the liquidators, the third parties that are watching the protocol, they're incentivized to liquidate you, to liquidate your underlying collateral, to pay back the loan. So there's no need for like, it's the blockchain as well. Like there's no real legal things, pseudonymous, but we don't need that. Like the code enforces it.
So that means, for Risto, that if before you borrow, you have to put in your own asset.
Yeah. Okay. So, but in a traditional bank, for example, if you have 1,000 euros in your bank account, they let you lend, for example, 10,000, right? So in the DeFi sense, you can only lend so much, how much you have put in, right? So you cannot lend more than you have put in, because in that case you can just run away with more of that which you have put in, and nobody can catch you, right?
Yeah, so in a DeFi space, it's like the exact opposite of that. So generally, depending on what we call the loan to value ratio, the LTV. So generally, it will be like you put in 10,000, then you can borrow 5,000.
Okay, so that's
right?
the security behind it. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, that's security. There's some other protocols or some other projects that are experimenting with those different models. They call it like zero collateral or things like that. And they have some interesting models where it's based on like historic behavior. Like if you've paid back your loans, then slowly you can, your collateral goes less and less and less that you need. But yeah, for Aave specifically, it's over collateralized. So you need more money. You put more money into the system than you take out.
And
Okay,
always think about the Grameen Bank, which made the experience that it depends who's joining you in the network. Yes, the Grameen Bank got very, very good payback rates, although the poors are in, and although they could have, from a perspective, they could have tried not to pay back, but they all did, and they made it good. So it depends on the network you're having inside your community. I think it's interesting how this works, and I think this is interesting to be observed in the future. Who's joining you? Yes, this will be very interesting. Yes, what is going to happen with your system? Because I think it can be great, and it can be okay. Let's see. And I'm really curious how this goes further with governance and perhaps voting about things you are going to plan and so on.
Yeah.
It's interesting. No.
Just quickly on like sort of a reply to that, the sort of contrarian view to that, those sort of like that sort of thinking is that yeah, because we don't know who joins or who's using the system, right? We can't discriminate against anyone, right? So whether you're located in like a country that isn't friendly with your government, or whether you're like a really poor person that can't get like a bank account because the banks don't, appeal to you, or whether you're like a digital nomad that travels around. Like when I was living in Germany for a bit actually, and it was impossible for me to like open a bank account. And so there's things like that where like traditional finance doesn't work for some people, right? Whereas, and because they don't know anything about, like we don't know anything about our users, we can't discriminate against them. So,
yeah, I just wanted to recommend that there is not always why you can do fraud. You're not must do fraud. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So Karin, you have put into this discussion several times the keyword governance. So
yes.
if you are working on it, David, still on the governance, can you share with some insights how the Lend token's purpose or will be used for the governance?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so we have an upcoming release that's sort of like, we call it light governance. So that will be essentially where Lend token holders can vote on upcoming protocol changes. Anyone can submit proposals, sort of like MakerDAO or the other sort of decentralized protocols. And the power of the Lend token will be as purely, strictly a governance voting mechanism on the direction of the protocol. Then after that, we have like a tokenomics, sort of what we call tokenomics, but it's like a redesign of the Lend system, and that will involve many other aspects. So whether it's, I don't know how much I can like talk about it or reveal, but sort of like if you're in a DeFi space, you could probably like expect or guess some of the things. We have some like things that are sort of standard these days, but also things that are very quite innovative. Things where it's let's say like staking your governance token. There's a lot more utility with the new tokenomics coming up as well.
Is there a white paper, David?
So we definitely have a white paper available. The tokenomics, the new tokenomics that I'm talking about, isn't available publicly yet, but we'll release that soon, probably.
Oh, let us know, please. I'm staying tuned.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Any other urgent pending question you want to know? Cool. Then I'll take over the screen share. So this was for today. We have a series, right? So last time we had an introduction about DeFi, presented some protocols and the history of DeFi. And today we had Aave. For the third session about DeFi, we will give you news later on in the coming weeks. But wait no more. On the 7th, I think, 7th of July, we will have the Deutsche Bahn with us and share some insights what they have done in their DLT projects. So probably we have a combination of both, so on-site and a virtual meetup, but not sure yet. So it depends on how the Deutsche Bahn is open to that. I will let you know, we will let you know. And yeah. So if there's no other questions, I would really thank David for being with us today. Especially his wife is waiting for a baby, so it should be
pregnant.
should be. What's the deadline or the?
I mean, we're past 37 weeks, so any time now.
Oh.
So we made before we started, we made some jokes that she's waving and waiting for him, and he's ready with his car to head over to the hospital during he gives this talk. So David, thank you. I think we will keep in touch. I'm in the Discord group, so also everyone is invited there. Aave has a Discord channel. And we can see also latest news and updates there. Talk together directly with Stanley and other Aave guys. Yeah, so hope you enjoyed it. And David, you can share with me later on the slides so I can distribute it to the participants and to our community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was fun.
Sure. Great. So then I wish you very luck and all the best for your baby and your wife, and you will have long sleepless nights.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something to look forward
Good
to.
time. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Thanks everyone.